Hello everyone, it's Mrs. Francisco here. I hope you're all okay. We're going to continue with another video about lighting in photography. As I talked about before, it's really important. Every photographer will be aware of the light, and they use different methods to modify it, to change it, to enhance your photos using the light. Okay, so previously we looked at light reflectors, and today we're going to look at light modifiers. Okay, so what is a light modifier? We really need to think about, what does the word modifier mean? A modifier comes from the verb modify. Who can tell me what modify means? Good. So modify equals change. Okay, it means change. So a light modifier aims to change the light source, to make it smaller, to make it larger, in comparison to the light reflectors, which weren't trying to change the light. They were just trying to play with it to improve the lighting situation for that particular photo. Okay, so I'm going to go through a range of light modifiers today and talk about why they're used, the positives and the negatives, and then we'll have a quick activity at the end. So one of the first ones is a barn door. Okay, and you might have seen barn doors when it comes to plays, theatre, and cinema. Okay, so they are these four kind of like flaps or barn doors that are attached to the flash, which is used alongside a camera. Okay, and what you do is you use them to shape the light. Okay, so you move the doors so that the light's beam is larger, wider, or smaller and narrower. Okay, and basically they reduce the amount of light that's being shone onto the model, and therefore, because you're reducing the amount, you're able to create more shadows. Okay, we talked about this last time, that the bigger the light source, the less shadows. The smaller the light source, the more shadow. So if you've got more shadows, you're ultimately going to have bigger contrasts between the light that's shining on the model and the shadows of, for example, under her cheekbones, under her eyes, under her chin. Okay, so what are the negatives of using the barn doors? So it could be that they're just too harsh. Okay, some situations just don't call for this type of light, so you really need to think about how you want to use the light and what end result you want. Okay, so that's your barn door. And then we have this thing called a snoot. Okay, snoot's such a funny word. It's probably the strangest word you'll come across in photography. And basically, it's like a long tube which attaches to the flash light that you're using in conjunction with your camera. And what it does is it restricts the light from quite a wide beam, and the spread then becomes a much narrower beam. So it changes from a floodlight. So if you think about lights in a football match, they are floodlights. They are aimed to illuminate as big an area as possible, to something that's rather narrow and more like a spotlight. And if you think about in theatre, a spotlight will literally just shine on one particular spot, generally on the main character. And that's what this snoot is used for. So it's very useful if you want to use this to illuminate one aspect of a person or one person in a group. In videography, it was used in cinema with Morticia Addams in the Addams Family, and she was always lit up, and the other members of the family weren't. Okay, so they used a snoot for that. It made her look more spooky, I guess, and more like a goddess. Made her different. It made her stand out. And it's also used when the background that is being used is particularly close to the subject. Okay, so it helps to give a little. It helps illuminate the subject. If the background's too far away, it's not going to have the same effect. Yeah, so that's a snoot. Obviously, you don't need to buy a snoot. I've just seen people use Pringles tubes. You can roll up a bit of paper and use that around the flashlight. Okay, so the next one is an umbrella. So umbrellas can be used in two ways. It can be a light reflector or a light modifier. So on the right hand side, this is where it's being used as a reflector. So like we talked about in the last video, it's got the silver or the white on the inside of the umbrella. The light is shining into the umbrella, which is being reflected away and illuminating the subject. On the right hand side, I really want to talk about how it's used as a modifier. So the light is on the other side of the umbrella to the subject, unlike here where they're on the same side. So the light is being shone through the umbrella. And basically what this does is it spreads the light beams, therefore creating a larger light source, which creates broader and softer light. Okay, so it's not as harsh. We know when it's got a larger light source, does it have shadows or not have shadows? Great, so less shadows are created when it's a larger light source. And the umbrella can be placed quite closely to a single subject and it will illuminate that subject, or it can be pulled back and it will illuminate the whole scene. Okay, a bit like the sun, for example. It's very far away, it just lights up the whole situation. The negatives are that sometimes it spreads the light too far, okay, and there's just light everywhere. And maybe something like a snoot or a barn door is going to be more suitable for what you are trying to achieve, okay? So lots of people like to use umbrellas. They are one of the most popular pieces in people's kits, especially with beginner photographers, but they're not the only solution. All right? Right, next one is a scrim. So this one's super easy to use to make at home. A bit like an umbrella, but it's flat and a lot easier to move around and handle. It basically, as you can see, is just a frame, and it's got some white material or white paper, like a bit like baking paper, and the light is shone through it. So it creates a large area of soft light, and it creates the sense that that the photographer is shooting next to a window, okay, and everything's been illuminated. Because obviously lots of people, you can see here, lots of photographers shoot in studios, so they're not outside. They have to create natural looking light using different techniques, such as these light modifiers, okay? So even though he's inside, the final look may need to look very natural and as if he's outside in the sun. And using a scrim is going to help that. And obviously, the only issue, they're very easy to make. You don't need to have something as fancy as this. You can literally use a sheet that you just pull tight, and you have someone help you pull a sheet tight and shine the light through. A bit of paper, it's going to do the same job, okay? But obviously something as big as this is very bulky. Right, and finally, we've got a beauty dish. So these beauty dishes are primarily used in fashion and beauty photography. Okay, and why they are lovely is because of the shape of them, because of the dish shape and the extra reflector in the middle. It gives a beautiful circular light, which creates low contrast lighting, and it's really good for taking photos of faces, okay? Creates lovely shadows, it defines cheekbones, and it also, because of the shape, it gives a very natural looking reflection in the model's eyeball, in the irises, okay? Because sometimes if you're taking a photo of a model, you may notice that the reflection in their eyes isn't very nice or isn't very natural. So Beauty Dish gives a really lovely reflection in the eye. The negative of this is that these beauty dishes are quite heavy because they're made of metal. They're cumbersome to carry around. And also sometimes you can't make them too big because of how heavy they are. And because of that, the reflection that's created, the light that's created, might not cover the whole of the model's face. Okay? So it might create dark shadows under the chin, and it might just not give the right finish that you're looking for. Okay? So they are our 5 different light modifiers. And obviously you have to think carefully as the photographer. You're always making these decisions. What is the final photo? What's the final style? What is the final outcome that I want? And then you'll decide what sort of modifier you need. You may also be looking at the light conditions to decide. So as a general rule of thumb, if you are in hard light condition, such as a full sun, then go for a light modifier that creates hard light, like a grid spot. We didn't talk about grid spot. A beauty dish, we talked about that. And a Fresnel lens or a naked flash, okay? So that is just the flash that you would use with your camera without anything on it. And then finally, if the light is soft, like early morning, twilight, open shade or overcast, then choose a light modifier that produces soft light, such as a scrim, umbrella or softbox. Okay. All right, so here we go. If you look at this, finally, this shows you all of the different end results of photos using different light modifiers. So at the top, they use soft boxes, then an umbrella, then they've got here a restrictor, which is like a barn door, and then any other type of modifiers that you could think of, and they are all the same model with the same background. But how do they create the different looks? And they're using different modifiers. So stop the video, have a quick look at that and think about what the outcomes can be and how cool they can look, depending on what you use. Right, finally, what do I want you to do? So I'd like you to have a go at making a scrim. What you need to do is hold a white piece of paper or piece of white sheeting, a white sheet, if you've got white sheets on your bed. Hold it up. You might need someone to help you to pull it nice and tight. And then use a torch. Shine your torch through the scrim at a range of household items or a person, if you've got someone in your house who doesn't mind being a model. And then you take a photo of the thing, of that subject, so the person or the household item, and see what different sort of effects you can use. Move the scrim closer, move it away, move the light closer, move it away. And yeah, see what you can do with different light modifiers. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do. So take care. Bye.